Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kurtivada. In this video, we will learn about how to access the forms in JavaScript. And this is my streak 14 of my JavaScript DOM elements and accessing and manipulating the JavaScript DOM elements. Let me quickly jump into Visual Studio. Here, to understand about the forms, let me create a form element and let me create two input fields, input and then for this input, I can give a placeholder as username and id equal to username, and then let me give a break statement and also a break statement, and then let me copy the same input field and paste here, and let me use password here, and also let me use password. Save this and go to the browser. Let me reload. So these are the two input elements. Let me zoom it and let me zoom this. These are the two input elements which are triggered from our form elements. And now what I want to do is, just if you want to access these input elements, I have to target these elements either by an ID or by a tag name. But I don't want to do that. I want to target via forms. So how can we do that? Actually speaking, this form doesn't have any ID. But how we can target this form? In general, document is having a method called as forms. So for example, form elements is equal to document API dot, there is something called as forms, which will give whole forms which are present in that document. As of now, we have only one form, so we can get that form. Console.log of, we'll be getting an array of elements, like that array will contain only one element, that is the first form element. Let me reload. And if you see here, you got one form element, and inside this form element we have two input fields. So this is how we can access the form. For example, if you have two forms, let me consider form 2. So let me copy this and use here. This is something like a register and this is something like a login. So I have used like this, and let me change it to 1 and 1. Save this. Username register and password register, just to differentiate both of the input fields. Let me go here, reload. If you see here, you got the collection as two forms. One form is for login, one form is for register. That means how many form elements you have on this particular document, that many forms can be accessed by using your forms. So forms is a property of a document which will return you all the existing forms in an array format. So let me consider the first case. You have only a form, and if you want to get that particular elements of the form, you have to use any of the mechanism, something like any ID or an element. But there is another way to get all the nested elements. How to get the all the nested elements is by using 0th index. I can access children. So whenever you give the children, let me save this and reload, you will be getting all the children which exist in this form. For example, you can see input username, break tag, and also input password. So actually speaking, for a form element accessing, we don't want all this styling part of a tags. So for example, if you have a div, I don't want that. If you have any br tag, I don't want that. Paragraph, I don't want that. Just I want the input elements which are targeted in this form. So for that sake, instead of using a children property, forms has a property called as elements. So it will return only the form elements. What are the form elements? Input, type text, input, type checkbox, radio buttons, all comes under the form elements, and this will return you the list of elements which are targeting only for the form. So let me clear it off and reload. You will be getting two input fields because we have only two input fields in this particular login form. And don't bother about these two. These are just generated because of that form element names. That means whenever you want to get by the name, you can get by using this password and the username. So this is one way to access your form element. And the second case is, for example, if you target only for an ID, example ID is equal to, I'm giving first form. So let me save this and I want to access this first form. How can you do that? Document dot get element by ID, or you can use selector, query selector. In this case, I'm using get element by ID. Now I got the element. So I'm removing this S, and this one will have the elements. So even in this way also, you can access the elements for that form tag. Let me reload. Here you get two form fields like username and a password. Now we got this form elements, and whenever you want to target only for the first one, then you can target by using of 0. Let me save this, go here and reload. You will be getting only the first one, that is the username input field. And this username input field, again, you can manipulate, you can change the text, you can change the values, you can change the placeholders. That we'll see in the next upcoming videos. For now, remember, to access a form element, we can access by using a by id over the form, and also by using elements property of a form tag. So these element properties will return only the elements which are related to the form. And if you want to access only this username, the id whatever we have the username, then you can even access them. For example, console.log of how you can access is form element dot elements item of 0. There is a method called as an item which will target for the first element of this elements. Instead of using of 0, even you can use item of 0. Reload. You can see both the outputs triggers to the same. For example, if you want to go with 1 which is having the second index is targeting to the password. Let me clear it off and reload. You will be getting the same output. This is related to the password. That means instead of targeting inside the array format, even you can use item method to get an element from a form list. So to summarize this, we have get element by id to return a form, and on top of the form elements we can use a property called as elements, which will return all the elements in that particular form which are only form elements, something like checkbox, radio button. So such type of text fields we can access by using elements, and it will be returning in an array format. Whenever you want to access a specific element from that form, then you can use that index either in this way, or the second way is pass that index for this item method. There is a method over these elements which will target for that particular index value, and that can be written by using item method. These will also return that particular index element itself. Hope you like my explanation. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.